Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Canadian Football Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans, and we have our Week 4 review. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? This is our eighth video in terms of preview and reviews of the season, and me and Rick are still without a win. That's right. Neither of our teams could get it done.
The only good thing is, Carter. The only good thing is, we both went 3 for 1 this week.
Yeah, our predictions are pretty good. We it turns out we both made the mistake of putting our faith in the Hamilton Ticats. But it is.
Oh, I'll always pick my team.
Oh, I know you'll always pick your team. I'll pick my team when they deserve to get picked. They didn't deserve to get picked this week. We had a great stream on Saturday for our Winnipeg and Calgary game. Had a ton of technical difficulties. However, you guys were wonderful the whole way through. So thank you guys for joining, and make sure you guys get the next one. And one way you can do that is making sure you like this video, share it around, and subscribe. Hit the little notification bell. If you do that, it keeps you informed on all content we have coming from this channel, so that way you don't miss anything. So we're going to get into our first game of the week here, which is the Edmonton versus BC game. BC defeats the Elks by a score of 24-21. That's right. Edmonton stays in the winless column along with yours truly, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. BC with the win. Edmonton able to make it close, but not able to get it done. Rick, how did you feel about this game?
I mean, not going to lie. Yeah. Vernon Adams had 331 yards. But the receivers for BC crapped the bed. Like, I was expecting more out of Holland for 55 yards. McInnes only had 49. The top receiver for BC only had 78 yards.
Yeah. Well, and if you're stand back and you get 11 carries for the running game, you want more than 42 yards. 42 yards is just not enough. An average of 3.8, it's not ideal. You got to at least get a few in there where you're really able to get some decent yardage. Vernon Adams Jr. just didn't even have 10 yards less than that with 33 on his 6 rushes. Had a higher average than Standback actually. So the one thing I will say, no picks for Vernon Adams this week. Still over 300 yards, 1 touchdown pass. So not a bad game by VA, but just maybe not quite as much as we got the prior week. Sean White went 3 for 3. Although I will say, a solid game defensively, like solid, not perfect. Definitely probably wanted to get more push overall against Edmonton. Was able to at least break that Edmonton O-line a few times as they had gotten a sack for Rene. And then they had Bethel Thompson throw 2 interceptions, one for Evans and one for Peters. So they were able to get that. I'm just looking through here. But even then, if I'm looking at the Edmonton side of things, that running game, they really were going to just about everyone. My goodness.
Just while you look through that,
yep.
Don't forget, Standback also had 41 yards receiving. So if you
is true.
If you count the 41 and the 42, he led the team in yards.
Yeah, no, all-purpose yards, Standback definitely got a bit more. So, but it's one of those things. The main thing for me was not necessarily that he didn't hit 50 yards rushing, is that he didn't hit 50 yards on 11 carries. You know what I mean? You want to get a bit more out of each carry than what you were getting there, but it is what it is. Boris Beatty was money. Went 2 for 2 with his longest being 52 yards. If I'm looking here, defense, a lot of tackles for Morgan there. Morgan, 12 tackles that game. Then 5 for Anderson and 4 for Bynum, going all the way down their sheet here. No sacks or interceptions here in favor of the Elks. Bethel Thompson will throw for 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions this game. And so not the most ideal. Again, 19 for 30. Borderline just kind of barely over 50%. So it is what it is in that regard. Both teams putting up a big fat donut in the third quarter. Not really being able to get much. BC will come out of the first half of this game with a narrow lead. But then the fourth quarter decides it. Both teams put up a decent fight. 11 points for BC, only 9 points for the Elks. And BC gets the win, 24-21. I really don't have much I need to say about this game. Is there anything that you have that I didn't mention?
Not for this game, no.
I see.
I was just looking at a few other things, but no.
All right, well that's good. I know we went through that one really quick. It's just that there wasn't a ton to talk about. I mean, pretty much what we said pretty much covered all the kind of the basics.
One thing
Yep.
that I will mention is
absolutely.
After going, this is something I've noticed. Now I know there's 3 other games that we have to get into. Is this the week that the teams start to find their defense?
Maybe,
because if you think about it, if you look at every other game,
yep.
Okay, there's a lot of teams were winning, 30 points, 10 points, 9 points. This is the week that 3 games were decided by not only the field goal, but the last second. So it's like no lead. But then, is this the time that the defensive sides start to shut down the offense?
Well, and honestly, that would be good. Because, I mean, even if we're going to get into it later, but if we look at that Hamilton-Ottawa game, 2 touchdowns in the last, 4 minutes? Something like that?
Something like that.
But anyways, we'll get on to that when we do. As we have our next game of the week, which was the Montreal Alouettes defeating the Toronto Argonauts by a score of 30-20.
Which was the first snooze fest of the first half of this game, but thank God the second half woke up.
Yeah, we'll have a bit more familiarity with that sentiment later this week. But Cody Fajardo, 284 yards, 33 throws, 33 completions, on 41 attempts. So ball was in the air quite a lot that game. 1 touchdown, 1 interception for him. Although Caleb Evans went in for 3 plays, 2 completions, one of them for a touchdown pass. And he would have an average of 16.3 yards, 6.3 yards average for Fajardo. Montreal able to put up a strong front. Speaker and Philpott, both with touchdown passes. They were being able to kind of lead the charge in the receiving game. Absolutely no rushing game for Montreal this game. Just really nothing. Leading rusher was Cody Fajardo himself. 13 yards on 3 rushes. Pretty much just from a few scrambles, and that's about it. So really no running game. Fletcher on 6 rushes got a combined total of 11 yards. And just you want more than that. What can I say? Despite the fact that they were able to win this game, it just kind of looked like Montreal was kind of brought down a bit. Cantanarku was able to get himself 2 sacks, so notable defensive performance for the Alouettes, and then a interception for Ruffin. I'll let you give your 2 cents, though, on the game, Rick.
Well, Kadeem Carey, you're starting to see more from him. He had 9 carries on 61 yards.
Yep.
But the big question is, before I say anything, let me go down. Where was Toronto's offense? I mean, Cameron Duke went 22 for 32, 199 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception,
and I
6.2.
think you mentioned that going into the first into halftime, that his amount of throwing yards was abysmal.
he only had 59. I think it was 59 yards passing, if I'm not mistaken.
And that's the thing. So that honestly, that sounds about right. They were able to get it 6 points in the first quarter. That's 2 field goals, no touchdown. And then the second quarter, big fat donut for Toronto. Really not able to get anything offensively there. Montreal overall being able to play consistent throughout this game. They weren't really able to take any portion of the game and just have a commanding lead, I'd say, to the point where they were just completely blowing Toronto out of the water. Obviously not. They won 30-20. They only won by 10 points. Enough to be, a definitive win, but not a far enough to call it a blowout or per se. Montreal defensively had a little bit more pressure to deal with than normal, but the concerns this game, I think, for Toronto, again, I agree with you, Rick, that it's definitely that offense with Cameron Duke's. Is this really going to be the guy? And I really don't know. I really don't know.
So I know this is kind of throwing a little tidbit out there for our viewers.
Yep.
But Thursday, Toronto's in Saskatchewan. It will be the ultimate test on if Saskatchewan blows out Toronto. Is Toronto really that good? or if Toronto blows out Saskatchewan,
Are they anything without Trevor Harris?
Well, that's the other thing.
Well, that's the big question. Is that, like, is Saskatchewan able to do anything when Trevor Harris isn't present? And that will be the big test for Saskatchewan. And again, the big test for Toronto is Cameron Dukes the real deal? I don't know. Because with Chad Kelly, even though we doubted Chad Kelly based on his standing on the team before that, he at least had the evidence to show throughout the season that he was the bona fide starter. We've seen signs of that from Dukes, but then we've also seen stuff that has kind of went the contrary.
So I mean, he had, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was an MCL sprain. Now, I don't know. He's been put on the 6 games, so I don't know if he's going to be on there the full 6 games or not. But, I mean, that leaves you to question, okay.
And
they have...
You're talking who?
Harris.
Well, we don't want to go too much into the Harris thing because that's we'll probably deal with that in the preview.
No. I'm just thinking, because you brought up the whole Patterson thing. They have Toronto, BC, Winnipeg, and Montreal in the next 4 games.
Yep.
Like, they have... I don't know why they didn't bring in... Like, okay, Shea Patterson had no experience last year. Why not bring in a better depth quarterback?
I don't know. But we'll have to see when we get to that. Is there anything else we would kind of want to chat about in this Alouettes Argonauts game?
Well,
you probably would have seen more in this. That's why I'm kind of putting it over to you.
I mean, you did see a better rush game, like I said, at a Kadeem Carey, but I mean, we'll see what happens next week when we see Toronto play Saskatchewan, but I beg to differ.
Yeah, and I also see that Rasheed Bailey is getting almost no throws a game.
He's blocking, though. He's blocking. I will give him that.
No, yeah, I know, but it's one of those things where it's just like, when I see that, and I'm like, Rasheed Bailey's a great receiver. Like, it just feels like his talents are not being fully utilized, especially since he probably signed a big money deal to go there. So
that's what happens when you have depth receivers all around. You don't just have one.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm just saying that typically, I'm surprised he hasn't at least had one kind of standout game. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. You know, if they're not winning games, then they'll have to figure out whatever their issue is. So, you know what I'm saying. But anyways, we then go to our first game of the week that went to overtime. Winnipeg finding new ways to lose. That's right, 22-19 victory for the Calgary Stampeders. And it's funny. It's funny I say that. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm going to look and find a Milt Stegall quote that he was quoting about the Edmonton Elks. And funny enough, I found it referred perfectly to the Bombers. This was Milt Stegall regarding the Edmonton Elks. You're not getting better. You're just finding different ways to lose. I'm not going to lie. This sounds like a perfect description of the Bombers right now. And what a quote, by the way. Seriously, what a quote. Like that's Milt Stegall, ladies and gentlemen. Just excellent stuff there. Yeah, Winnipeg, man. Where do we even get started? So Winnipeg got 2 offside penalties. I remember 3 procedure penalties, all from different offensive linemen. Also known as they were 2 procedure penalties away from the offensive line having the full house of procedure penalties. 5 of the kind. My goodness. There are a few notable things to talk about in this game. So, Sergio Castillo. 26-yard field goal in the first quarter. 37 and 36 in the second quarter. 2 field goals there. In the third quarter, nothing. But in the fourth quarter, Sergio Castillo, after Liam Dobson takes a illegal procedure penalty for Winnipeg, he somehow hits a 60-yard field goal. My goodness, for those who are wondering, that is now the second longest field goal in CFL history. It's tied. I believe it's tied for that. And now the longest field goal in club history for the Bombers. This breaks Justin Medlock who had the record at 58 yards. Now, there is another kicker who held that record with him. It wasn't just Justin Medlock. I'm forgetting his name. If somebody remembers it in the comment section down below, I'd appreciate that, but I can't remember it. So, also, we had posted a short with that, so make sure you guys go check that out. I actually posted that reel on our Instagram as well. If you guys aren't following that, make sure you do. Castillo actually messaged me afterwards thanking us for that. And I was like, well, no problem, man, no problem. And I it's funny because Zach kind of loses his mind at Liam Dobson in that clip. And so I text Sergio and I'm like, oh, no, don't worry about it. Like, he gets animated during the games, And I was like, hey, in hindsight, it just made your kick all that more impressive, But besides that wonderful memory, we have to take a reality and look at all the things bad about this game. Zach Collaros, 8 for 12, so went 66%, 55 yards, 4.6 on average, 1 pick, and he gets injured. Now, we don't know if he's going to be back this next week. However, I'm not going to lie. I was fine with Strevian. I actually thought Strevy did not too bad. And Strevy would go for 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Of course, that interception was in overtime by none other than Demario Houston. That's right, Demario Houston, the former killer on the Bombers, is now the killer of Bombers. Not a single receiver over 60 yards. Yeah. Oliveira, 10 carries, 26 yards. Not good. Not good. This struggles. The Winnipeg just completely destroyed by injuries, which it's not an excuse. It's just a fact. But they got to figure it out, and they haven't. So I'll turn this over to you, Rick. Let you get your 2 cents in.
Well, a couple of things. Since Carter likes my jokes, so
sometimes,
if Clara plays next week, what happens first? The first touchdown of the season or Winnipeg win?
When you say the first touchdown, you mean his first throwing touchdown?
Yeah,
because Chris Streveler hits a throwing touchdown this year. That's right.
No,
Chris Streveler gets a Blue Bomber touchdown throwing before Zach Collaros in the 4th game of the year.
But let's be real though. He did take a helmet to the ribs though.
Yeah, he did.
So
that's true.
So let's
true.
point that out there.
And he had 3.5 games to get a throwing touchdown before that?
No. I just wanted to be clear what he left the game with. And then not only that, but it's pretty bad when Brady Oliveira, your running back, has the most total yards on your whole offense for this game.
Yeah, he had
more than Dembski.
37 yards receiving. And the thing is that if you're going to be leading the team in a combination of rushing and passing yards as a running back, you better be over 100 yards. He wasn't.
It wasn't even that. Even Chris Smith, who you guys were praising for the return game.
Well, his return game was pretty good. And now one thing, even if you look at the stat lines are not going to be fully reflective, and I'll tell you why. Do you see the blocks he had? He had nothing for blocks. He had nothing. Chris Smith had no business even getting the stats that he could. He got 63 yards on 4 returns, punt, and then 25 yards on 1 kickoff return. I'm going to tell you right now, as much as that's not the numbers where you'd prefer it to be, if he had maybe 3 blocks in front of him, he'd probably double that. He had nothing. Nothing. He had nothing in front of him. However, he did the absolute most he could. I'm not pinning a darn thing of this. I'm not putting any of this in Chris Smith. I'm sorry. I think that he played really well. We just weren't able to do much in front of him. A guy who also had a good game, though, Terrell Ford got an interception. I believe this is his first interception of the season. It's unfortunate that our D-line couldn't get any sacks because I'm not happy with our D-line right now. I'm not going to lie. I think this is where me and Chris Walby have a big agreement. You guys can, check out Chris Walby. He does his stuff with Darren Bombing. My brother's actually an intern there at Bonfire Sports. They do Bomber content there as well. Check that out. Good stuff. Yeah, me and Walby are on the same page with that in terms of the regard that this D-line for Winnipeg, the O-line is starting to get it together, barring the procedure penalties. The O-line has gotten better. Even though they've had some games that they struggled, I actually think they did pretty decent overall, which it sounds funny considering Collaros gets injured, but Collaros held on to that ball pretty darn long on that play that he gets hurt. And at the end of the day, the O-line's not going to stop everything. And so it is what it is, but in my opinion, the D-line is just not putting the pressure on the quarterback that they need to be putting pressure.
I will say this before we go over to the Calgary swing of things.
Yep.
Carter, did you hear the news?
Yes, that is because Mr. Lucky Whitehead is back in Winnipeg. That's right. Lucky Whitehead will be joining us for next week's game. I had wondered why nobody signed him. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really curious what the Bombers do in regards to the return game. Does Chris Smith stay out there, or are we putting out Smith as well as Whitehead now? And it depends who the ball goes towards. Just because Lucky Whitehead, obviously, when he was in Winnipeg, was known for his return game. I believe he had gotten at least 2 kickoff return touchdowns when he played for the Bombers in his first CFL season before heading over to the Lions. Is this the same Lucky Whitehead that left to go to BC? No, it's not. That was a $200,000 big paycheck, biggest receiver paycheck at the time in the CFL. When he got that, from everything I've seen, it doesn't look like that's where he is anymore. But man, the Bombers could use bloody well anything, and they need receivers. So, Lucky Whitehead, good to have him signed and back in Winnipeg, as he's even after he left when he was in BC. When the Lions played the Bombers, he'd stay late and he'd sign autographs, he'd take pictures. He was very, very friendly. There were times when he had shown support. I think he actually showed up for the Banjo Bowl despite playing for the Lions. I believe he showed up for the Banjo Bowl with the Blue Bomber fans and support. So we were very, very thankful for that. And he's just been a good guy to have around the city. So glad to have him back.
Let's
talk about the Stampeders side of things, though.
So Jake Mayer,
yep,
239 yards, yep, 28 for 43. Again, how is this guy throwing 43 attempts? Like, his arm, I honestly don't know.
Dickinson has just got him just doing arm workouts all week, apparently. That's my guess.
And then when Reggie Bangleton only has 50 yards for 7 out of 14 attempts. Dedrick Mills had 16 carries for 51 yards. You got to be better on that.
Yeah, no, you got to have a better average. He had an average of 3.2 yards per carry. Not the worst average we saw this week, but certainly want more than that.
And Paredes goes 4 for 4, even though his longest was not as long as Castillo's. It was still 52 yards.
It was still 52 yards. Now, that's the thing. Rene Paredes is an excellent kicker. And that's pretty much all I can say in that regard. On the defensive side of things, Hicks gets an interception as well as Demario Houston, which was a very notable interception being in overtime, and then a sack for Cam Judge. Cam Judge, 7 tackles. Really, really good defensive performance by Judge, as well as Demario Houston got 7 tackles for him as well. Micah Awe as well as Williams with 4 tackles apiece, and Thompson as well. So overall, pretty solid defensive game here by Calgary, and with some good defensive plays, they're able to get the win and deny the Bombers of their first point. So no tie, win for the Stampeders.
Who would have thought when we started our CFL season, by week 4, we would be talking about Calgary in 3rd and Winnipeg in 4th?
And Winnipeg and Edmonton being tied with an 0-4 record.
Well, I mean, technically, you could say Winnipeg's in 4th with the better point differential.
Who gives a shit? It's 0-4. Who gives a shit? Until you have a win, I'm sorry. Don't take those pity points. Don't take the pity points. That's the thing. If the Bombers are the only team that's 0-4, or if half the league is 0-4, it doesn't make a difference to me. Because either way, the result is Bombers are playing like crap. They need to be better. Doesn't matter if other people are playing like crap too. It's one of those things. It's like if you're like, a student and you're in college or whatever, don't compare your mark to Jill and Sandy next to you. Look at your mark and be like, was this good or was this bad? And if it was bad, then get better. That's where the Bombers have got to be. They gotta stop worrying about other teams. They gotta stop worrying about all that crap and get themselves a win. Get themselves something. They got to show some clutch, but it is what it is. Calgary comes out with the win, and they go to a 2-1 record. So good win by the Stampeders on home field at McMahon Stadium. Which then brings us into our last game of the week. This was the Sunday night game. The Hamilton Tiger Cats narrowly beat by the Ottawa Redblacks by a score of 24-22. Rick, the floor is yours.
Well, let's just say this all started off. First off, before I say anything, Carter, did you watch any of this or no?
Did I watch any of that game? I saw some of it. I saw I definitely saw like the fourth quarter.
Okay.
In its entirety.
So, first quarter, very first play of the game.
I saw this.
we win the coin toss.
Yep.
Then Legio decides to kick it down. Dedman runs up, fumbles the ball, and Ticats get the ball at the Ottawa 30. Not even 2 plays later, and what is it that we see? We see a Tim White sighting, of which he got not only his first catch of the game, but his first touchdown of the season.
That's right. 118 yards for a Tim White touchdown.
And then
in Ottawa, not on home field, but over 118 yards.
And then it just kind of, and then Drew Brown. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't Drew Brown. It was Dustin Crum who got their first touchdown in the first quarter.
Yep.
Then it just became a snooze fest. The second and third quarter. Then the excitement comes in.
Oh, yeah. One thing we forgot to mention, I will say, about the last game, for those not aware. The first 3 quarters of the Winnipeg-Calgary game were some of the most boring football you could possibly watch. Just a quick mention, just because we forgot to talk about that.
I want to say it was back and forth. Like passing and whatnot, kicking.
Yep.
Up until, I want to say, the 3-minute point. The 3-minute point, it's like, okay, we got this. We were winning. We're winning by 1 point. Then Drew Brown decides to throw a touchdown to Jake Hardy with 2:03 left, because then they failed the 2-point convert. 2 minutes left. Carter, we both know. No, at this point, no lead is a good lead. No lead is safe. No lead is safe. Then Ticats get the ball, and Bo Levi Mitchell throws a touchdown with 31 seconds left. At this point, just like Drew Brown, Bo Levi Mitchell goes for the 2 points, and it's failed. Whoever decide for Mark Legio to kick the dribble kick should I can't say this because I'd get in trouble. Needs to have a picture of the face put on a pegboard or dartboard, and just have every Ticat fan throw a dart at whosever decision, because had we have not kicked that script kick or that drub kick, whatever the stupid kick you want to call it, they would have not gotten 27-yard return to the 52, made 3 passes, and then kicked the game-winning field goal with no time left.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie.
Because
I'm a
who
little bit
knows?
surprised why
They
Hamilton didn't even run the clock a little bit more when they were on that last drive and they knew they were getting into the end zone and time wasn't a concern.
It's not even that, but I mean, if you kick,
That is a
like
factor, though. You
like
know
a
what I mean?
ball,
It's clock management.
if you kick a ball up in the air, let it drop, because it wouldn't have. I'm sure Leggio could have kicked a 70-yard kickoff. Okay, it puts you at the 20, the 30. They wouldn't have returned it to the 52. But and those people who think that are out there that are saying that this is on Bo Levi Mitchell, this is not on Bo Levi Mitchell, because the guy had 322 passing yards for 2 touchdowns.
No picks.
No picks. Greg Bell, who filled in for James Butler, who is only, according to what I've been told, his only out for concussion protocols, so he's not even on the 6th game. Greg Bell comes in, 13 carries for 52 yards. Tim White finally shows up and goes 8 for 12 for 118 yards and 1 touchdown. But my lord, how Kenneth George Jr. is still employed by us?
And
That
who
guy
is he
needs
for
to
those
be
wondering?
given
I just want those to be aware who are viewers. What is
He
his role?
So here's the thing.
Some
So
will be aware,
he's
some
been
wouldn't.
put-
That's why I'm.
Yeah. So he was put at the weak side corner, the weak side halfback. Now he was put on the strong side corner, and the guy cannot get the job done. If you have seen any Ticat games, you'll know who he is. He is number 3 that cannot cover if his life depended on it. Mind you, I am very happy with what we've seen through Moxie yesterday. And the other serious matter that I need to bring up is our defense could not make a tackle if their life depended on it yesterday. They tried to make a tackle, they missed, and it's just very atrocious football.
Well, I mean, if you look at the defense, even so, you got Wilson with 6 tackles, 5 for Katsantonis, 5 for Usher. After that, you don't have a single guy who got four tackles through the entire rest of the roster. No one else.
And
has
I
4.
forgot that we could have had 3 interceptions on top of that too, but no one seems to want to catch the ball.
And no interceptions there on the Ottawa side of things. There would be a fumble recovery by Harris, and then 2 sacks, 1 for Carter as well as 1 for Malden the 4th. On the Ottawa Red Blacks. 11 tackles for Griffin, 7 for Lamont, 6 for Pickett, 6 as well for Santos Knox. So some good defensive play there by some members of the Ottawa Red Blacks. Again, we kind of went through it a little bit. Drew Brown, 1 touchdown, no picks, 24 for 39, 51 on yards rushing on 10 rushes for Armstead, who's been okay. Not his best game. His best game was probably his game against Winnipeg. Jalen Acklin had a decent night, 7 receptions, 90 yards. And then Hardy and Rhymes got some yards as well, although Rhymes only 4 yards on 1 reception, and Hardy 74 yards on 5 receptions, and as well a touchdown for Hardy. But again, this was majority a kicking game. Lewis Ward would go 4 for 4. And on the other side of things, Leggio would go 3 for 3, only with his longest being 38 yards, though. Didn't really have to make many long kicks. Although if you're a Hamilton Tiger Cats fan, I got to imagine that if your longest kick is 38 yards, you're hoping that you're able to reach that end zone a little more if you're going to be kicking from that close in, if that's like your longest kick. But overall, it is what it is. Ward's longest kick was from 46.
Mind how much I did shit on our defense. We, like you said, we only did allow Rhymes to catch 1 out of 5 for 4 yards. So I will give them props for that.
Yep.
But other than that, they only threw to 4 receivers. That's it. 4 receivers.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I got.
Actually, sorry. 3 My
I have
apologies.
three. I have
Three
Ackland,
receivers and a
Hardy, and
running
Rhymes.
back.
And then, I see.
Well,
Yeah, and then even Addison.
and Armstead too had 53.
Some rushing yards.
But
And see, yeah.
Tommy Condell got round 1, but we won't let him get round 2.
So, it is what it is. You got to be seething over that. Tommy Condell got to win against you guys.
Oh.
It is what it is.
Remind me. Hey,
everybody knows your opinion on Mr. Tommy Condell. What?
What are you complaining? Tommy Condell has a win on you guys too.
Oh yeah, I know, but I'm not the one who hates him as much. He was never my problem. He was your problem. It is what it is, though. I think that's pretty much all we got. Is there anything else we got there, Rick?
That is all I have.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you have not already. Turn on the little notification bell. You get all that good stuff. And then also, if you're watching this or I guess listening to this on Spotify, make sure you guys leave 5 stars. We'd appreciate it. Really, really helps out the channel a ton. Helps our viewership on Spotify, getting those videos out, or getting the videos out, so people are able to listen to them or watch them if they're watching them on YouTube. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you guys next time.